Cupid. Someone I've seen my entire life but know absolutely nothing about. Turns out, he's the Roman counterpart to Eros, which is the Greek god of love and doing the dirty. When reading about Eros, I found something called the Erotes, I hope I said that right, and one of the Erotes really stood out to me, and that was Anteros. Anteros is Eros' brother, and after reading about him, I really wanted to draw him. So hi everyone, I'm Ward, and welcome to my channel Wardrawsalot, and this week we're gonna draw and talk about Anteros. Before we start, I do want to say that I don't know too much about Greek mythology. I kind of have whatever is left over in my brain from high school and whatever I read for this video, but I'll be honest, there wasn't a lot on Anteros or the Erotes for that matter. It may be because they're like quote-unquote lesser characters in the whole mythology of it all, so there isn't too much written about them. Some virtually nothing about them, so please be patient with me if I do get something wrong. If you know something and you know that's correct, or you know some fact or whatever about this subject, leave it in the comments so I could actually read about it and kind of inform myself, just because this subject is very cool. Now, with that out of the way, I do want to backpedal a little bit. So I said something about the Erotes earlier, or the Erotes, whichever is like the right way to say it. I thought Erotes because of the name Erotes, so hopefully I'm right. If not, then I'll just sound dumb for the next 12 minutes. It's alright. So, so the Erotes was like a entourage or advisors, like a group of people that were kind of like almost to the side of Aphrodite, right? Aphrodite's kind of like the center of this all because she is the goddess of love and everything that is involved with it. Now, the Erotes consist of 8 different people, or members, you could say, and 2 of them are of Aphrodite's children. Eros, or the Roman counterpart Cupid, and Anteros, which is his brother. It's kind of confusing as to who's Anteros' parents, mostly because in some written works it says that he is, the son of Aphrodite and Ares, but in later texts it says that he was arisen from the mutual love of Poseidon and Neretes. They say it's a mutual love between them that made Anteros rise because they were both men. So, men and men no baby, men woman baby. So so because of their mutual love for each other, Poseidon and Neretes, that's what kind of spawned Anteros, which his name literally means love returned or counter love. However, when it comes to the story between Aphrodite and Ares, they wanted to have another child, aka Anteros, because Eros was lonely. He was also a perpetual child, which kind of translates to he doesn't grow, he stays the same size. So the almost power that Anteros had whenever he was next to Eros is that he would make him grow, and then whenever Anteros was away from his brother Eros, Eros would shrink down again. See, there's a reason why he's called Anteros, right? It's counter love or love requited. It's because that's his job. When we have Eros, who kind of throws out these arrows all willy-nilly and makes people fall in love with each other, it's not always each other that they fall in love with, right? Sometimes it's just like this hopeless, endless crush on one end and the other person just doesn't feel the same. So that's where Anteros comes in, right? He's the guy who almost punishes you for not returning the love that the other person has given you. So when a crush comes up to you and they pour their heart out and they leave their emotions bare and you reject them, that's when Anteros comes in and he just rips you apart. He takes his arrow and then uses it on you, which in his case, his arrow is an arrow of lead. It's never really specified why it's an arrow of lead, but I'm just guessing it just hurts, and that's why he uses it. There are some stories apparently where he also uses a massive club and uses that to help, exact kind of like a revenge thing on the unrequited lover, but I decided to go with the arrow just because I wanted it to kind of be like a side-by-side between him and his brother Eros, which, by the way, they're meant to complement each other. So Eros throws out these arrows and, does his little thing, then Anteros comes in and is like, why don't you love each other? It's cool that they kind of complement each other so well, but it's also complementing mischief, so I don't really know. Now, admittedly, trying to find some stories on Anteros is a little tough, and I think it's because, like I said earlier, they're not like the main characters, quote unquote, of the stories, because you have like the Greek gods and all the stories that come about them, but then you have like the supporting cast Greek gods, which one of them would definitely be like Anteros, so there isn't too much written about him, but there was something on Wikipedia that I found that was kind of, like a story that included Anteros in there, so it made sense. The story goes, quote unquote, an altar to Anteros was put up by the Medics in Athens in commemoration of the spurned love of the Medic Timagoras, who was rejected by the Athenian Meles. Upon hearing Timagoras' declaration of love for him, the young man mockingly ordered him to throw himself down from the top of a tall rock. Seeing Timagoras dead, Meles repented and threw himself down from the same rock. To break this down a little bit, because it took me a few times to read it and understand it, I'm going to explain it, and as simple as I can. Basically, one man professed his love for the other man, so man 1 professed his love, man 2 was hearing the profession. So man 1 professes it, and man 2 is like, absolutely not, go throw yourself off of a rock. And man 1 did. The guy who professed his feelings literally threw himself off the rock and died. And then, filled with like absolute shame, in order to repent, man 2 also threw himself off of the same rock. And that's crazy. So what Anteros did there, I'm guessing from what I could read and gather, was that he threw that arrow of lead onto man 2, the guy who didn't accept the love, and that's when the kind of like shame took over and the need to repent, and that's when he also threw himself over that same rock. This is, again, because Anteros' counter love, or love requited, and once he saw that the love wasn't being filled between the both of them because of one's feelings of not wanting to love the other, that's where he stepped in and was like, you're going down, bro, it's over. One cool thing about Anteros is not only does he step in when it's like a counter love between lovers, but between friends. So whenever there's a friendship between two people and the love isn't being kind of like reciprocated within that relationship, he also steps in and kind of does his thing, which is interesting to me because I figured it would only be about like love, but then I kind of forget the definition of love is very vast, right? It could be between people who actually are in love with each other and then people who just love each other as a mutual bond and respect. Now that we've talked about who Anteros is, I kind of want to talk about what he looks like. The only real description that I found of Anteros kind of says that he looks exactly like Eros, his brother, except he has longer hair, and instead of angel wings which we usually see on Eros, it's more like a butterfly wing that's attached to him. Now, when it came to drawing Anteros, I was kind of torn, right? Because the way I've seen Eros depicted is kind of like either a baby or a young man, and it's because of, well, the history of it all. They changed Eros from a baby and a young man, and they kind of switched back and forth between it all because, realistically, misogyny. They didn't want someone like the goddess of love telling the god of love, like Eros, what to do, so they changed him to a baby because they didn't want the idea of a woman controlling a man. So the reason why this is kind of difficult to decipher is because, like, what do I draw? All I see are the baby versions, which he's very like cherub, blonde hair, very chubby, versus the statues of a young man who's muscular and looks a certain type of way. So it was kind of difficult to try and interpret what Anteros might look like as a result of this. So I went with my own design and like what he might look like and how I interpret it. I did stick with the butterfly wings 100% just because I thought that was like a huge staple of the character, especially because if angel wings are to Eros, I'd think that butterfly wings are to Anteros. The reason being is because one is of love, and it's kind of like almost like a holy thing to look at, love, right? Versus butterfly wings, which in my head kind of stem back to the butterfly effect, how one thing can change everything, and how, for example, if one love isn't reciprocated, it changes it all. They never really give an actual explanation as to why he has butterfly wings, but that's kind of what I work together in my own brain. When it comes to him looking exactly like Eros, it's kind of difficult to translate for me, simply for the fact that it depends on which story you read and how you kind of put that together in the story. If he was the, love child of Aphrodite and Ares, then yeah, he would look like Eros and maybe just have something different like a butterfly wing instead of the angel wings, and would have longer hair because he just has longer hair. But if you think he's kind of like the physical manifestation of the love that was reciprocated between Poseidon and Neretis, then maybe he would look a little different. Trying to look up some things like how Poseidon looks like is kind of wishy-washy. Some people said he had black hair to bluish hair, that he's an older man, that he would have a beard, but it never really said anything besides that. It kind of just, I guess, leaves it up to imagination, and there's like practically nothing on Neretis. Like, I couldn't find a thing about what they look like, nothing, dude. So I just kind of went with my own interpretation. I kind of went into my head into the idea of Greek genetics and how vast they are, how they could be either very light-skinned, very dark-skinned, how their hair can range very heavily from very curly to very straight hair. So it's all really just dependent on what I kind of wanted to draw on this character. I did decide to go with darker skin and much curlier hair, just because that kind of makes sense to me. I also like to see the change of pace, especially because in mythology, like, everybody kind of looks the same. Is mostly just lighter skin, lighter hair, and I feel like that's low-key lazy character design. If these are like a myth and it's a mythology, I would want something to be a little bit more, diverse with its characters, just because, more than one type of person exists in this universe. So so if you can have, gods made out of fire, then you can have some with some tanner skin. It just makes sense to me. I don't know, but I think that it really suit the vibe that he would be love requited. I did make sure to keep him with his longer hair, and I wanted to kind of cover one eye. I just feel like Anteros is a very edgy character. Like him saying, like, what, you don't love me? And then, like, punishing the person for it is kind of, it's really edgy to me, right? So I thought that covering the hair, or the eye with the hair, definitely suited the character design, kind of making him almost caress the leaded arrow, like he's going to use it and he's looking for his next prey. I thought that that would really suit his kind of character. For his clothing, I tried to do something very simple and drapey, because that's kind of what I've seen within, like, Greek mythology, besides, completely nude, but, like, I am not drawing I'm not drawing a completely nude man here on YouTube because I would get sniped by YouTube. YouTube itself, they'd be like, oh, no, bro, we can't have that. So they take the video down immediately. Do I have a problem with drawing nude men? No, not at all. Not in the fucking slightest. But YouTube does, so I had to draw it in accordance. I did want to kind of match him up a little bit, like the same color drapes would be at the end of the arrow right there, like the feathers I did at the end. In my head, I feel like he decorates his arrow as well to kind of give it a little bit more oomph. I made his shoes kind of with the little straps around it and a butterfly at the end, so it just has some kind of matching design. I did give him like this silver headband across his head, just because I've seen that apparently a lot of headbands are kind of located in Greek mythology, so I just thought that that would be a nice additive to his character. Now, probably the hardest part for me, honestly, was picking a color palette that I thought would be great for this character, and I decided to do something on, like, the color Dusty Rose, just for the sole fact that, like, when a rose is wilting and it's dying, it turns into this paler color. So I thought that a love that isn't requited would kind of be the same way. Like, a love that is flourishing and blooming would be like a flower in its best form, full of color and life, but then when a love is dying or it isn't reciprocated, it kind of dies off. So I decided to go with colors where a rose or a flower would just kind of start to disappear and then just go away. So I thought that made the best sense when it came to this character. As for the poses, the first one, which is on the left, is him holding the arrow, kind of looking around to see if someone's love is requited, but it's also looking at you, the viewer, as if he's trying to see if you are also giving back the love that people are giving you. And the second pose, I tried to do one of them like Greek-ass poses, you know what I'm talking about, like on the ceramics, and they have like these crazy poses going on and doing stuff, so I thought that suited the character as well, like he's kind of pushing the arrow back, ready to throw it onto somebody instead of using a bow, just because that would hurt more. Overall, I think he looks gorgeous. He looks beautiful as hell, and I had fun actually reading about the erotes, and maybe in the future I'll draw some more. But yeah, thanks for watching, and remember I love you. Bye!